Well, Alon-Lee Green joins us now from Tel Aviv. He works with Jewish and Palestinian communities in Israel to try and foster peace. Alon-Lee, thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us what you've seen in your work within these communities over the past 10 days?
Well, the only way to describe what is going on right now in Israel among Jewish people and Arab Palestinian citizens in Israel is terror and fear and shock and collective trauma. We've been going through the toughest days of our lives. We see only violence, only blood. And unfortunately, we also hear our ministers, our prime ministers, promising just more of this right now. We've all condemned and we're shocked and are full with rage and anger with the terrible massacre Hamas committed 10 days ago. But next to what happened, and since that happened, we also see, immense death also in Gaza Strip. We're talking right now about 800 children that have died there in Gaza Strip with the bombings of our army. And we say it in the clearest way possible that every life is a life, every child is a child, and we do not discriminate between innocent people.
I really appreciate you being on the show, Alan. I just want to read you something from the Mail that's broken in the last few minutes. And I think this is what we should be talking about. I've made my position particularly clear on how I feel the Jewish community have been treated, but I absolutely get the humanitarian crisis that's about to unfold. Iran has warned overnight that it will be forced to take preemptive action against Israel in the coming hours as the Jewish nation prepares for a ground offensive on the Gaza Strip, sparking fears of a wider conflict in the Middle East. And that surely is what is on everybody's mind. Much as you're quite right to talk about the victims so far, nobody can forget those appalling images from the weekend at a music festival. Bodies, I mean, I don't even want to talk about it. Disgusting. Nobody wants what's going to happen, but unless you get rid of this terrorist cell, this is not going to go away. And the problem, of course, is Israel wants to exact revenge. They presumably have a right within international law. Nobody wants a humanitarian disaster. But actually, the interesting thing is that Hamas aren't helping get the people out of Gaza. They're keeping them there as human shields. And so you've got a situation whereby this could really escalate. And that must be terrifying for everybody in that area, Alan.
Let me be very clear about that. You know how many cycles of war we had in the last 17 years between Israel and Gaza? Every time there's a war, our government promises us that this time it will work out. This time we will achieve security. This time the people of Israel will be able to live in safety. But it's a lie. It never worked, and I think it's not going to work this time as well. The only way to achieve safety and security to the people of Israel is by peace, is by a long-term agreement.
Can I jump in and ask you, though, because I really think it's the question that needs to be asked, and I really appreciate the fact that you're there and you're an honest man, you want peace, and I get that. The people that were massacred, whose bodies were tortured, burnt, raped. Let's be perfectly honest. I know it's breakfast last weekend. You're a man who represents an organisation, co-director of Standing Together. You don't want the loss of life. No sane human being does. You talk about sitting down, but sitting down hasn't worked in 70 years. Do you understand the reaction that says we need to take this terrorist cell out? Do you think, here's an even better question, that you can negotiate with terrorists, because that's what Hamas are? Can you?
You understand sitting there in the UK and telling Jewish Israeli men here in Israel that our government has weakened the Palestinian Authority and did everything they can to work with Hamas in the last decade. It was the open and direct policy of Netanyahu and his partners in the right wing. Their policy is to strengthen Hamas, is to work with Hamas. They've said it and they're doing that. They came to a lot of agreements with Hamas in the last decade. They didn't meet once with the PLO and the Palestinian Authority. So if this is the direct and open policy in Israel, why are we in this situation again? We need to work against Hamas. Yes, it's a terrorist organization that has done terrible war crimes and crimes against humanity. And yes, I feel the pain and the rage and the anger and the feelings of revenge about every child and women and men that died by Hamas. And yes, I think we need to work against Hamas, but we need to ask the questions. Is a new war going to achieve security to the Israeli people? The answer is no. Do you have the ability as an army to, I don't know, clean the entire Gaza Strip? 2 million people living in open air prison. Do you have the ability to make it safe and without any person that wants to hurt people in Israel? I think the ability is really questionable. And the last question, what will happen? We will kill even 20,000 Palestinians in Gaza, and then what? We will conquer the Gaza Strip. And then what? Are we going to take control over 2 million people? Are we taking responsibility on their healthcare, their education? Are we going to have new settlements there in Gaza Strip? Who is going to take control after the war of Gaza Strip? You think the Palestinian Authority will come and take responsibility after Israel condemned?
Alon-Lee Green, thank you so much for joining us. I agree with you.
Situation there?
Where does this situation end?
I have to say, we've spoken to many people over the last 10 days, and you speak an enormous amount of sense. Thank you so much indeed for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you.